Oi gente, meu nome é Daljiimarax. Estou aprendendo português há ano. Eu simplesmente amo muito essa linguagem. Okay, so I have made a lot of progress with Portuguese over the past year, and I gotta share my tips with y'all. It's 2025. I know y'all got new language goals, so I got the tea for you, okay? I'm going to tell you guys my current goals for the month of February 2025, how I plan on, reaching those goals, and yeah. So we're going to split this up with like the passive learning goals that I have and the active learning goals. I'm going to have resources and everything that I use down below, so don't feel like, oh my god, what did she use it? I got you. So my current goal is to speak Portuguese every single day. I feel like I'm lacking on the pronunciation when it comes to Portuguese, and I end up often speaking Portuguese kind of like Spanish, which I'm trying to get out of that habit because the languages are so close together. And Spanish is my prominent language. And I just noticed, my accent is just not that great. It could be better. I'm a year in, it could be better. It's like one of the hardest parts about learning a language when you're not like surrounded by it, like you don't live in a place where that language is spoken often, so your accent and the way you speak is going to be very lackluster. So we're going to speak Portuguese every day. That is my number one goal. No matter what's happening, I have to speak Portuguese, have to come out of my mouth every single day, okay? And I literally mean out of my mouth, because sometimes I'll be studying and I'll be speaking Portuguese in my head. I gotta say it. It gotta come out, okay? This February goal is to be able to read more fluently. Not necessarily understand what I'm saying, but when I read Portuguese, it's very choppy and it's very like a little kid just learning how to read. Again, I get it's only a year, but I just feel like I have not given this year my all when it comes to Portuguese, so we're not playing this year. So when I read Portuguese, I want to just be able to read it. Even if I don't understand a fucking word that is on this piece of paper, I'm going to be able to read. That's what we're going to do, okay? And specifically to achieve the reading goal, I am going to be watching lots of pronunciation videos of Portuguese and less vocabulary, conjugating verbs, grammar, things like that. Like right now, I need to focus on lots of how to pronunciate words and consonants and things like that in Portuguese. So that's what we're focusing on. We're not necessarily going to be adding on too much new material. We are going to refine the material I already got up in here. You feel me? And I found a Brazilian creator or Portuguese teacher on TikTok. She has some really great pronunciation videos that I've been using in the middle of my doom scrolling, and I'm going to keep watching her. I think she's going to be the one that's going to help me like really refine my pronunciation, so I'm excited about that. So those are my big goals. Speak Portuguese every single day, read fluently, not necessarily become fluent because that happens over time, but read more fluently Portuguese, and improve my pronunciation. So those are my big like 3, I guess. How I'm going to achieve that is I am going to study Portuguese 6 hours a week. That is going to be a mixture of passive learning and active learning. So let's get into the passive learning. And I'm going to listen to Ludmila at least twice a week while I'm making my breakfast. I make the same breakfast every single day. I did a tutorial on making my breakfast in Spanish on my Instagram, so you should go check that out. I plan to listen to Ludmila every single day. I plan to listen to Ludmila. I love Ludmila. I love her most recent album. My favorite song is Portuguese Demais. I think it's so beautiful. So if I can listen to her twice, that'll add to my passive learning. And it takes me about 15 minutes to make breakfast. So 30 minutes of listening to music twice a week, that's good. In addition to passive learning that way, I walk my dog every single day. So at least 2 of those walks a week. Our walks are about 45 minutes long. I plan on listening to the Coffee Break Portuguese podcast. It's very simple, very digestible Portuguese lessons. I love that channel. And it's very interactive. So I enjoy like listening to that podcast, and that'll be very, very helpful. I could listen to at least 2 episodes per walk. That's another 45 minutes. So what is that? An hour and a half. So now we're up to like 3 hours of passive learning at minimum a week, just with listening to music while I do my music, and the podcast while I walk my dog. Another thing I plan to do is watch at least 2 videos from the Easy Portuguese. For every language I learn, there's an easy, because I speak Spanish, French, Italian, and Portuguese. They have an easy YouTube channel, and I love this channel because they are just interviewing random people on the street, and I get the ins and outs on how people just talk naturally. I think that is just like one of the most helpful ways that have helped me with learning all of the languages. A week, that'll be great for me. Next, my last plan for passive learning is going to be watching Portuguese films. So I have just a 2025 goal of watching 50 foreign films in all of the languages that I'm learning, and at least 10 of those on the list are Portuguese. But for the month of Fevereiro, I plan on watching the film Black Orpheus or Som a Redor. These are just two that I think are going to be, I'm going to enjoy the most. I'm most excited to watch these. Next we have active learning. So this is where we getting down to it, baby. We going to apply all the grammar, all the vocabulary, all those things. So first I have a tutor that I meet with every single week on the app Preply. That's why I have all of my language tutors, my absolute favorite app in the entire world. So I have a Portuguese tutor and we meet every single week for 1 hour. She has her own planned lessons that she has for me. And what I like to do is at least spend 30 minutes to an hour going over those lessons. Sometimes it'll match up to what I'm learning in Portuguese, so I just kind of like add that to my study session. Next, I made my own study guide. The freaking coolest, but it has just a variety of like the colors and the animals and the numbers and questions I may have to ask, and just I think this has like the most important things to know when you need to communicate to somebody in general about anything. So I created this notebook or this study guide for all of the languages that I speak to kind of help me out with studying, so I'm not just Google translating every single thing that I need to know. If I can pull from my own notes, that's a win-win. So I created my own study guide for all of the languages and I'm so happy. I'm going to continue to add to it, but I think I got the basics down for what I need. Next, I plan to read for 15 minutes a day in Portuguese. Again, I can't become a fluent reader if I'm not, you know, applying it. And 15 minutes is not a lot. I do scroll longer than that, so I could take 15 minutes out of my day to read a little bit of Portuguese. Okay, how I do that is I literally just find like children's stories. Like right now I'm reading Chapin's Vermelho, which is Little Red Riding Hood. If you want to learn how to read better in another language, read children's stories that you already know like plot, because it's easier to like consume it because you already know what's going on. So it's a lot easier to catch on to that. So you can find children's stories, you'll be set. Next, I plan to work in my textbook, my Portuguese textbook, for at least 45 minutes twice a week. So this is going to be something that I'll also need to apply, like my study guide that I created. I got this Brazilian Portuguese book last year and I have not put a dent in it, so we're going to really focus on this year. It's hard to study in a textbook because it's like there's so much information in here that's not relevant for me to know right now. I'm not going to be able to apply it. So sometimes I get turned off by textbooks, but you need a textbook to learn a new language. At least if you want to be like not just a well speaker, but you also want to be able to read and write well as well. 45 minutes twice a week, pair it with my language notes. Pair it with my study guide, pair it with my tutor lessons. Oh baby, Portuguese, we're gonna be on our way. And lastly, I need to go ahead and get it popping with Hello Talk. Think about these language exchange apps if you're not familiar. You basically just find people online to talk to and practice the language with. It's so inconsistent. So I could, very often these conversations are just very simple, back and forth, back and forth. How are you? How's your day? What you got going on? Because it's hard to keep up with people's schedules, and there's been plenty of times that I've been trying to like match people's schedule, like, hey, let's meet for 15 minutes a day. Or let's meet 15 minutes every Tuesday. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. So I'm rotating about 4 people that I'm talking to on this language exchange app, because I've been on it about 3 months with at least the same people. It's just been up and down talking to the same people for the past 3 months, but this is basically my only way to speak Portuguese. I live in Ohio. There's not a lot of Brazilians or Portuguese people here, so I kind of talk to strangers online, and that's why it's also been just very hard to apply this damn language, because it's like I can only talk to strangers online. So yes, again, I have this as far as resources. I use the app Preply. I use the app Hello Talk, Preply for tutors, Hello Talk for language exchange. It's everything Brazilian book. I like it so far, and I think it's really good for people who have like zero knowledge of Portuguese. I have a little bit because again, I speak 3 other Romance languages. It wasn't that hard to kind of catch on to Portuguese, but again, my pronunciation is ass because I didn't do that well this past year with really getting into it, and I don't got nobody to talk to in real life. Again, all the resources will be below, but I plan on also posting more of my actual study days in Portuguese, because that'll help keep me accountable. Yeah.